Hi, everybody. This is Courtney Drake McDonough with RealFoodTraveler.com. I'm the owner and managing editor, and we're here for another Real Food Traveler podcast. And today I am with Mike Brennenstuhl, who is the owner of Door Artisan Cheese Company in Egg Harbor, Wisconsin. And I had the great opportunity last fall, I believe it was, to go to Door County, and you'll see that we have a couple of really wonderful articles on the website about Door County. But one of the stops on my visit was to Door Artisan Cheese Company, and I was so struck by not only the place, but also by Mike's story and his background. And as I've said to him, I was on the brink of taking over ownership of Real Food Traveler right when I'm meeting this man who just a year or so before took on this brand new business and brand new building, which you'll hear more about. And neither one of us is in our 20s, I'll say, or maybe even 30s, but we won't go beyond that. And so here I was taking on this big thing a little later in life, and he was taking on this big thing a little later in life, and I felt a real connection to him. And I just felt like his story was so compelling that I wanted to bring it to all of our readers and our podcast listeners. So that's why we are here today with Mike. So, Mike, let's start out and just let you, in case I butchered this pronunciation of your last name, have you introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Courtney. My name is Mike Brennenstuhl, and I am the president and CEO of Door Artisan Cheese Company in Egg Harbor, Wisconsin, in beautiful Door County. And so we're just glad to be here today.
Well, thanks again for being here. I'm glad we could make this work. Talk to us about how you came to be in the cheese business to begin with.
Well, it's fairly simple. Like I tell most guests and people that ask me that question, that I was actually forced into it by birth. So it's kind of funny to say it that way, but I come from a family of some cheesemakers from central Wisconsin, and I grew up in a small town and worked in a tiny, tiny little cheese factory going back some 47 years, and so that was kind of the start of the business for me. I decided to follow suit with my relatives, and basically I've had a professional career. My entire life has been involved in cheese manufacturing. So I've worked in numerous different corporate companies, very large companies, and some small specialty cheese companies. So I have a pretty diverse background in cheese making, and it's pretty much been all entrenched in my time here in Wisconsin.
Oh, really? Wow. So Wisconsin the whole time. That's interesting. Talk to us about the various parts of the business, because it was not just a one-trick pony when I went in.
Yeah. Door Artisan Cheese was an idea that I came up with as I got to be later in my career. I wanted to pursue doing this venture. A lot of pre-planning. It took a lot of time before the actual construction and development to build a cheese plant that could produce many varieties of artisan cheese and have a complementary market, high-end cheese market, deli, if you will, to go along with it. And the market next to that is the restaurant called Glacier Ledge, which is a international cutting-edge type restaurant with cheese-forward recipes. And we do a lot of neat stuff with small plates, tapas-style foods, and recipes from all over the world. So yeah, it's just something that's kind of become my passion, and it's what I wanted to do to end my career, is to develop this business.
Wow. And am I remembering right that you built the building as well?
Yes. Yeah, the building was built from ground up. I actually designed the raw structure and the layout of the building myself. Certainly I didn't have I had an architect and general contractor, but the overall layout and the flow design of the building was designed by myself. And, and we selected a piece of real estate that really fits with where we want it to be and, for all of the things that we wanted to accomplish through the whole facility.
Okay. As I was there and seeing the place and listening to you now, it just keeps striking me that any one of those things could have been a business unto itself. The restaurant or the high-end deli, the cheesemaking facility. Combining all of them is so ambitious. Why did you want to take on such a big endeavor at this point?
Well, I think it goes back to, the passion and idea, the concept of what we wanted to be. I had owned a specialty cheese company, and we were just focused on manufacturing. And really, Door Artisan Cheese is about making world-class cheeses, but it's more than just making a quality cheese. I wanted to do something to give back to the industry that I so cherish. And so we have designed the building to make these world-class cheeses and have guests come up and work with them and talk to them to educate them on really the history of cheesemaking in Wisconsin and really the day in the life of what a cheesemaker would go through. So there's a lot of interactive type things going on. You can actually view the cheesemaking up close and personal, and realistically, you can talk live with a cheesemaker while he's actually making a vat of cheese. We have theatrical mics on our cheesemakers, so they take all the questions, and it becomes a real nice exchange of information from our cheesemakers to our guests to help them better understand what we go through in order to make these beautiful cheeses. So we have that, and then, we wanted to do something in terms of a restaurant. The restaurant kind of evolved from more of a breakfast, small cafe into a casual, fine dining restaurant. And so that part actually kind of evolved after we started the process. And we were fortunate enough to land a great chef from Southern California. And, it's more than just their ability. The team has to function together. And he shared a lot of the same passions about his cooking and meal preparation as what I did. So there's a cultural fit with that side of the business, and I couldn't be more happy with Lawrence Hutchinson as our executive chef. So that's all kind of part of the experience, Courtney. Mm-hmm. So it's, we don't want people to just run into the store and grab a pound of cheese and head out to the next place. We want this to be a destination where people can come in and then they see, what we have to offer. We offer about 18 of our own cheeses now, a whole wide variety. And we also have probably 100 other types of cheese from all over the world. So there's a good chance that, if you have a certain type of cheese that you want to pick up, you can get it in our market, along with some Italian cured meats, some prosciuttos, and Spanish Serrano Lomo, and a lot of different salamis. So we offer a little bit of those finer things as we go through. So it's just a nice experience for the guest, and they can spend easily 1 to 2 hours here.
I can imagine. I certainly wanted to stay longer than we did, and just to kind of give a visual for our listeners about being able to watch the cheesemakers. There are these big windows, these huge open windows, and you can just stand there in the shop and watch them making the cheese. And I'm a freak for behind-the-scenes things and factory things and how do they make that kind of stuff. And I couldn't get enough of that. That was amazing. And the fact that you can talk to them and ask them questions and they don't mind answering was great. I thought that was just wonderful to watch. One thing I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, and you touched on it a little bit, is if you could talk about what's the deal with Wisconsin and cheese? What is the history and why we associate Wisconsin with cheese?
Well, when the immigrants came over to New York, cheesemaking first started over there, but it didn't take long, and the migration of the German and Swiss people in the 1860s, 1870s found that Wisconsin was actually a perfect climate to raise cattle and have cows, and the ground was fertile enough and a good location to produce good quality milk. So Wisconsin just slowly grew from the late 1870s to by the early 1900s, 1920s. That's when we really became the dairy state. And in the 1917, there was 2,800 cheese factories in Wisconsin. Now we're down to 200, but there's still a lot more milk being processed by the big cheese companies. But the artisan and specialty cheese industry is really thriving in Wisconsin, and a lot of that's due to the fact of our experienced cheesemakers that have been here for generations. And so there's a lot of creativity that goes on with the cheeses that come out of Wisconsin. That's evidenced by the American Cheese Society and, different things like that. So it's, I feel proud that I can call myself a lifelong cheesemaker in Wisconsin. This career has really blessed me. I just get so excited to be able to talk about our history, and I'm certainly old enough to remember, what things kind of used to be like a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a fairly decent historian on the cheese making and the cheese types, so that helps as well.
See, I knew you were the right guy to talk to. I just knew it. So let's talk cheese a little bit more. Cheese is something that's so familiar to all of us, but what is it really? What are the ingredients? What is happening when one makes cheese?
Well, it's to be honest with you, it's fairly straightforward. Almost all cheeses certainly have to have a medium of some type of milk, whether it's cow's milk, goat's milk, sheep's milk, water buffalo even in some cases. So, you're starting with a liquid milk product, and almost all cheeses and cheesemakers use a culture, an acid-producing bacteria of some sort that they add to the milk, and that's called starter. You hear a cheesemaker talk about starter. Well, really, all those are is this microscopic bacteria that convert lactose into lactic acid. And that's really the whole course of controlling that acid development. And then the end result is cheese. Now, there's colors added. There's also enzymes and flavor adjuncts that can be added. And there's probably 500 different kinds of bacteria that can be used. Parmesan uses a different set of bacteria than a cheddar, or a Gouda uses a different set of cultures. So, and all of those cultures and how you work the cheese or how you handle that cheese gives you ultimately that different flavor profile and texture that makes that cheese unique. So we as cheesemakers, we over our experience get accustomed to these certain bacteria that we like to use, and we come up with a kind of a cocktail combination. Each one of us would like to, as cheesemakers, would like to tell you that we're the best cheesemaker that's out there, but I would say that none of us is really ever the best, but sometimes we're the most unique, and there are cheesemakers that are somewhat more innovative than others. So you get the cheese, and some of it is, we haven't talked too much about cave aging, which is a big deal here at our facility. And that process of cave aging adds a whole new dimension to what a flavor of a cheese can become. And there's certainly like Parmigiano Reggiano and some of these cheeses over in Italy and France. You know, they've been aging cheese in caves for years. But it's had a revival in the United States. And when I built the facility, I wanted to cave age most of my cheeses. So we actually built 3 caves down in our second level of our building. And that process in itself is like cheesemaking, called affinage. And, what we do down there equally helps create the unique cheese flavor profile that we want to get.
And while we're talking about the cheese cave, yours was beautiful. I've never been in one, but it was just beautiful, and the walls were stone. Can you talk a little bit about how and why you built it that way?
Yeah. Initially, the plan was to have natural limestone walls down in our lower level. We did have some regulatory issues that we had to deal with, so we decided to create a superstructure, and then we actually, in order to create that nice cave environment, we actually purchased some old-fashioned Door County field stones. The common thing to do is in the spring, the farmers, before they start working the crops in the fields, they have to pick up all these big stones that pop up out of the ground through the winter. And so I bought all these stones, and I had them cut in half, and then we actually cemented those stones into a big hallway, if you will, and created a real nice, welcoming environment when you tour our store and see the cheese making. You can tour the caves. We do guest tours, and when the elevator opens up on the lower level, we get a lot of oohs and ahs because it's very, very inviting and beautiful to see the stonework down that hallway. And then down the hallway, we have these giant windows where you can see, all of these different kinds of cheese, some 18 different varieties, aging in 3 different caves that we have. So, and then we do narratives on the cheese. I tell a story for every one of the cheeses that I make. There's a story behind it. And so we kind of go through the history of that, and a lot of these cheeses, again, they reflect the history of my career. It's really a culmination of my career when I talk about my cheeses, because each one of those were special to me at some point in time during this last 47 years.
I love that. It's so much more than just something we eat. That's wonderful. And I had said to you when we first got on the phone, I believe everybody has a story, and it's very interesting to hear that every cheese has a story too. So speaking of you and cheese, do you make some of the cheese yourself, personally?
Yeah, I have been. I do get in the cheese factory. We've been open as a business for a year and a half, and in the beginning of the development of the company, I was in the cheese factory every day, fine-tuning recipes and working with our other cheese makers. And any time that we develop a new cheese, I'm forward right out in the factory going through that process with our cheese makers. So I have a hand in almost all of the recipes of the cheeses that we make. And, for me, that's if I had to do one thing and just do it, I would like to be next to a cheese vat making a vat of cheese. That's really my purest form of of passion for me is to be able to do that. So that's where I have my fun. And along the way, I've been blessed too. I've been fortunate to win quite a few awards for the quality of the cheeses that I make. And I don't know if I had mentioned to you, but we had entered 2 cheeses into the World Cheese Contest in March, and our cave-aged cheddar took a gold medal as the best cave-aged cheese in the world.
Wow.
And and I don't know if you were aware of that. And then we also entered in our cheese, our version of a mild Asiago, which is a whole milk Italian cheese. We entered that in, and we took a bronze medal in that category, and that was equally as impressive to me because that was a very large category with a lot of cheesemakers from Italy that had been making that style of cheese for hundreds of years, and our little cheese plant in Door County came away with a 3rd place medal. So we were ecstatic about that.
That's wonderful. Well, congratulations. That's great.
No, thank you.
Thank you. So when I know probably a lot of cheesemakers learned by apprenticeship, but is there such a thing as a formal education in cheesemaking? And if so, what's that called?
Yeah, at University in Madison, Wisconsin-Madison, you could enter into a program to get into food science degree. Part of that you can focus your energy on is into dairy manufacturing or cheese manufacturing as a part of that. So you get a food science degree. So you have to go through and understand a lot of microbiology, certainly the physical components and how milk works and controlling quality and things like that. Now, I learned my trade from my brother-in-law, and who was the head of that small, tiny little cheese plant where I grew up at the time. And of course, you go on and you learn things, you take classes, you go through that. And I actually entered into a master's program, a master cheesemaker program through the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And I received my master's probably about 6 years ago. And my focus at that time was making blue and gorgonzola cheeses, but they make it pretty well-rounded. So, and with my experience, I made a lot of Italian cheeses in my career, and I have an affection for making Gouda. So we make some really nice Goudas. And so I think leading into, my team, I have a certain specialty focus on the cheeses I make, but my main person who really drives the daily day-to-day cheese making, his name is Jim Demeter, and he's a 4th-generation cheesemaker, and his family specialized in white mold, camembert, and brie, and they did a lot of Swiss and Munster cheese. So we have a very diverse group of people for our small little tiny cheese plant. We've got probably 100 years of practical cheese making experience. Every time you walk in the door and you're going to make a vat of cheese, there's a lot of history to reflect back on.
That's really wonderful. I love the lineage of it. You touched on this a little bit, but let's talk about it again. What types of cheeses do you make on site, and are there others that you sell that are made elsewhere, or is everything only at your shop? We're up to about 18 different varieties of cheese. And I think one thing that really makes our small artisan cheese plant unique, because of our experience level, is that we make a very diverse group. A lot of small artisan cheesemakers focus on one type of cheese, maybe a Gouda, or maybe they do a cave-aged cheddar, or maybe they're trying to do a wash rind cheese, and then they just stay with that. We actually make a cave-aged English cheddars,
We make 2 different kinds of Gouda. We make a full line of hard-type Italian, Parmesan, Romano, Asiago. We make a Swedish Fontina. Jim, my main cheesemaker, just came up with a creamy Swiss that is to die for, and it's like a baby Swiss with huge Emmental-sized eyes. And so, I mean, we're always kind of trying to come up with new ideas, and certainly we do the traditional cheddar and Monterey Jack, but we also try to be real kind of off the beaten path. I developed raclette cheese last fall, and that cheese has taken off tremendously. And raclette is one of my favorite cheeses of all time. And so we've been making raclette, and there's a few companies in the United States that make that, but that is quite a unique cheese. So, and there's going to be more to come. There's going to be a lot more to come. And so we have ours, and then, you know, we can't make and be everything to everybody. We offer about 100 other different styles of cheese from companies all across Wisconsin, the United States, and even in Europe. We'll bring in a triple cream brie from France, a Delise de Bourgogne, and you know, we have some Maubais, and you know, we have a lot of different cheeses. We'll get in a Parmigiano Reggiano, and I like to bring in some imported blue cheeses as well. So we've got a nice blend of cheeses that I think satisfy the masses. I don't think anybody can come in and say, I couldn't find a cheese I didn't like, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the whole purpose.
Yeah, I can't imagine that anybody would come in and not find something they liked. Even if you didn't have exactly what they wanted, I'm sure they'd leave with plenty of other things. Why is Door County, Wisconsin such a good place for your business, and including your physical location, too?
Well, I think that's a good question. You know, I've certainly have grown up in central Wisconsin, but I've raised my family for the most part over the last 30 years in the northeastern Wisconsin and the Green Bay area. And my wife and I have always spent time up in Door County. During the summer season, you know, it is a beautiful place to travel as a tourist location. So we do get a lot of visitors that come up into Door County. So when I wanted to build this business and do this business, I wanted to be able to reach out to as many people as I could. And by doing it in a location such as Door County, with all of the travelers that come from all over the United States, we are able to engage with those people and help them better understand our history as cheesemakers in Wisconsin, the quality of the cheese that we do, and even just to understand the basics of what a cheesemaker has to go through in order to create this beautiful food item that everybody loves. So that was why we chose Door County, is because we get a lot of masses of people that come up from all over, and many of which really don't have an understanding of how cheesemaking takes place.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, I'm really glad you brought up all the visitors, because one thing that really struck me when I was there, among so many other things, was that it would be a great place to come in and gather some picnic makings. You know, you don't have to be a resident who then takes everything home and uses it for a meal later on. You can grab some cheese and cured meats and drinks and crackers and whatnot and go have a picnic somewhere. And Door County is just so beautiful. There are a million places to be able to enjoy a picnic. So that it is equally a place for visitors just passing through as much as the residents there. Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know and readers to know that I haven't thought to ask you?
you've done a very good job. I do thank you for having me on. I think, if people want to find out more information, certainly social media is the route to go. They can follow us on Facebook. We have a beautiful website for both our cheese company as well as our restaurant. And, we're going to begin doing some mail order shipping of our cheeses. And so that is all coming down the road here in the near future. So it's just been a pleasure talking with you this morning.
Well, thank you so much. I know I've learned a lot, even though I had met you and had heard some of this before. It's just so interesting. It's so interesting what you've done, and it's such a beautiful place. And I highly encourage our listeners and Real Food Traveler readers to go to Door County anyway, because it's an amazing place, but definitely to make a stop at Door Artisan Cheese, because it's certainly a destination in itself. So thank you again, Mike, for your time today, and I hope all of our readers come in and talk to you and take a little tour, and if they do, please let Mike know that you heard about it on realfoodtraveler.com. So thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.